Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Amber Corin with Federal Times. I was at DISA Forecast to Industry earlier this week, and they talked a lot about virtualization there and what they want to do with virtualization. So I was wondering, particularly for Mr. Kennedy and Mr. McGovern, how much are you coordinating with the Defense Department in your efforts, and on what?
Please.
The PMISC, our primary function is to coordinate. The power to convene is one of our highest powers. We, a lot like BASF, the old commercial that we don't make anything, we just make it better. That's a lot of like what we are. We are the advocates. We feed the seed into and plant the seeds that then grow into the oak trees. So we coordinate quite a bit with all federal agencies, but we don't just coordinate with the federal agencies. We coordinate a whole of nation, whole of government type functionality that we do and coordination that we do. And we also do with private sector, as you saw, with the Standards Coordinating Council that's up there that we work with. That Shamidra's the chair of that Standards Coordinating Council. So it's bringing them all together, and so we're totally open and transparent with everything that we do and all our efforts. It is imperative, as you're saying, that the Defense Department is coordinated with on this. Doug will be able to speak to this much better as a part of the Defense Department, but the transparency and the information flow has to be borderless. Because what we're talking about, when I talk open standards and I talk collaboration and I speak to utilizing the tools of the ISE that are out there, I'm talking something that is initially, when I talk interoperability, I'm talking across whole of government and then whole of nation, and then you're talking internationally. Because what we're talking about here in the technology that we're talking about does not just affect the DoD, just does not affect the federal government, just does not affect the national government. Okay, it affects every single individual out there that's on the network, worldwide, anywhere. And so the collaboration that I'm talking about is paramount in everything that we do. The communication flow is paramount in everything that is done. Otherwise, we're just going to have bigger stovepipes of excellence moving forward. We cannot afford that. We just cannot afford that. And then it gets down the road. We have to be forward thinking. The blinder has to come off. And we have to look at the blue sky concept here. The bottom line is, yes, we may not need to collaborate with them today. We may not be sharing information with them today. But what about tomorrow? What about 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line? If we build those bigger stovepipes of excellence in doing it, not giving thought to that, then we're going to have to rebuild, tear everything down, and rebuild it all over again in that time when the requirement is there and the need is there. That is not the right way to do business. You hit the nail on the head. It is definitely collaboration and information transparency, and it needs to be open. That's why I mentioned before, building that foundation of interoperability at the layer so that it is interoperable once it gets fielded and gets out there. And that is all about sharing of information and sharing it responsibly, yes, but sharing it.
Doug's?
So I'll say that we are joined at the hip with the department in all of these conversations. NGA as a support to the IC. We are also a DoD combat support agency, so our products and services are going out to the warfighter each and every day, and the commands and services. I will say that in our governance fora, the ICCIO Council, the services are there, the DoD CIO is there, and vice versa. As we have conversations about eyesight and deploying capabilities at the top secret fabric, we are also intimately involved in conversations about what's going on at the secret level from a JIE, DI2E perspective, and at the unclassified level. And so, we are all in with our DoD brothers and sisters in just about all these conversations. And not just in about the U.S. only conversations, but when we're having meetings talking about our Five Eyes partners or NATO or ISAF, right? So we are all in together in this.
Can I add something?
I'll let you say something.
Thank you. I'm not getting enough time up here. So I think from the industry side, what we're trying to do to facilitate that collaboration is we're taking a really strong look at eyesight and trying to understand what the requirements are there and the drivers, and then JIE as well, and then find out what we can do from industry to kind of help the two kind of work better together to support how the government's trying to do the interoperability between the two. So I think those are two really good initiatives to track.
Yeah, and I think if I could jump back.
Sure.
What gets really fun is these at the end of the day aren't technology issues or conversations, but they get into authorities and whose budget and what kind of budget and what function were these dollars appropriated for, security reciprocity, acquisition reciprocity. Those become some of the more tenuous conversations that we have to work through.
So I would like to circle back on the assurance question, because I think Sharmendra was bringing up about trust in the overall, approach, and if there isn't trust, right, then people are not going to play. So could each of you go in a little deeper in one area regarding cybersecurity or mission assurance or technologies or thinking that is being put in place as you're transitioning to virtualization? Give us a no-kidding, concrete one thing that is being done that really does build the trust into this approach, and also remembering that it's not like all the current architectures out there, all the current software is up to speed. So, you're going from one transition to another, please.
So no kidding?
No kidding.
Okay. So I think what we're seeing, just in terms of the increasing attacks, the level of the attacks, the sophistication of the attacks, is really what we're trying to figure out is how do you go from a certified product to a trusted platform? And how do you make sure that trust is inherent from the very beginning of the process all the way through? So one thing that we're trying to do is really provide a secure, reliable, and trusted supply chain. How do we do our code development? How do we roll that code into the code train that we're going to deliver to the government? How can we make sure that that's got a really good audit process, that the government can have trust in the software? How do we handle our manufacturing? Because I think if you're going to have a foundational trust, it's got to start at the very beginning on how the software is developed, how the hardware is manufactured, how it all comes together. And then when you take that trusted supply chain and then you can start to work for, it doesn't really matter if there's a single image of a single product in a network that you've got certified, but how does that product work with the other products to make sure that if there's a bad behavior either coming in or going out, that the government can find it, remediate it, and then stop it. So we're trying to do a ground-up approach.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Ditto. Now, it is.
Well, this is important, motherhood and apple
Well,
pie.
I'm going to go back to Reagan, though. I'm going to say, I love trust, but verify.
Yeah.
Right? So that trust that George just talked about, it's got to be there, right? It's the table stakes. And then I think it's actually all that behavioral stuff that we were talking around, understanding how things move, right? It's almost like a natural organism when you watch and what goes wrong, right? That's what we do in the network, because we've got to be predictive to say we got to stop something before it happens, because once it happens, then you're not sharing information because the network's down, right? So it's that set of predictive capabilities around, it's viewing the threat and knowing that when that trust has been broken, it's verifying why was it broken, was it an anomaly, was it a false positive, right? And we got to do that in real time. I think Sharmendra did a great job of talking about how does policy and policy enforcement
So is
points.
this easier in a virtualized?
Yes, I think it is easier
Okay.
because you're doing it at speed, at scale, with huge amounts of information. You could do full inspection of that information today with today's technologies and looking at it. But I was going back to Shamendra's points about enforcement of that, and that's where I would say it's trust but verify.
Okay. Doug?
I'm struggling because there's so many areas that I
Pick one.
could take on.
Your favorite.
So I would point to we are getting much more comfortable with the DevOps kind of environment when we can work in a common DevOps environment. that's built on common controls and common processes for how we check in the software, check out the software, and document the security controls. That's a simple one. There's a bunch of prickly policy issues where we talk about reciprocity, where we talk about at the community level setting maximum controls so that people can't, individual agencies or organizations or data providers can't pocket veto those kinds of things, but actually exerting those kinds of authorities at the DNI level are things we're looking at. And also, one of the challenges we face is getting the talent, the cyber IA talent out there. It's in such demand across industry and the government. I understand there's somebody put out a number, 10,000 positions shortfall in the government in terms of being able to hire that kind of talent and get that on board. So we're working hard to deal with that and attracting the best and brightest. Since we can't pay them, it's about the mission and that attraction, but also getting those brilliant IA people deployed with the Scrum teams and the DevOps folks so that they can make on-the-spot cogent security decisions each and every day, and not a monolithic bureaucracy about just checking the paperwork.
So has virtualization made that will that make that any
Absolutely,
easier?
because again, as you have that common infrastructure, the common environment, the common tools, as you have the pick list of the software that's already been pre-qualified to operate and run in the environments, from a process perspective, it really greases that whole supply chain.
Okay. One.
I'll chase my squirrel. Federated ICAM. That's it. It's all about trust. It's all about trust. And the federated ICAM is the foundational layer upon which everything else is going to be built and is done. The virtualization allows that to be possible, makes it faster, makes it better, because when you're talking ICAM, you're not talking about just the person. You're talking about every entity within your network. Every bit of information that's in your network, everything that's there, can have credential and access management. It can have ABAC capability within there. It can have a back-end attribute exchange capability where you protect privacy and civil liberties are automatically built into the system and they're done. The federated ICAM capability across all the environment and every environment, and it being the same and adapted.
Could you spell that?
Federated identity, credentialing, and access management.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Identity, credentialing, and access management takes it. It's not just about identity. It's identity, credentialing, and the access management that's included in there.
So that you are who you say you are, connecting to who you know.
It's the right information to the right person at the right time with the right access capability to it, but at the same time, protecting the information and the people that are supplying the information and the privacy and civil liberties that are in there. Through virtualization, it becomes virtualized also.
Right.
When you have that in combination, now you have your true solution that's there. Granted, there will always be a break somewhere. Something's going to happen.
Right.
Okay? But if you have that foundational layer in place and you have the virtualization there to support it across, then the fixes, as Doug was talking about, okay, are close to instantaneous. Okay, as Chris was talking about, you're able to box it in and close it in. So that's it.
Okay, we're in the last minute and a half. So your last sentence to the group here of why this is the way to go, or the bottom line on about virtualization.
So I think in the past there's always been a balance or a decision. Do I want to emphasize security or do I want to emphasize mission? And I think, to me, the real power of virtualization is it's no longer either or, but it can be both. And I think what virtualization is going to be able to do is take the intelligence, the information, the sensors, and allow the mission to get better as it protects itself. And so I think having to do away with that choice is to me, a huge play for the virtualization.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so cloud's mainstream. I mean, you hear the private cloud in the mission area. Storage is already there. The network within the data centers is virtualized. We're in 100 cities today, growing every day. Put a big toe in the water and go do it and try it, because it's going to have stellar effects on mission, and it's not a trade-off on security. We like to serve our huggers, hug our servers, or sometimes I serve also hug my server huggers, but Right, those days are
Yes.
gone, right?
Right.
You don't need to be there co-located with your stuff. You need to get the trust factor up, and there's great examples of where this is happening. Take the next step because it really truly is the next frontier, and we're here living it today.
Great. Doug?
Okay, we're all in. Come join us. The water's warm. It's great.
Thank you. Okay, could you be as brief?
Almost. I would be surprised if the private sector and commercial sector does not go here first, to be honest with you, and they do not drive this.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, this is the wave of the future. This is what we're looking at. This is where we're moving. We went from a server room the size of this room that we're in right now
Right.
to a server room the size of one corner. Now we're going to go down to a server room that is literally vaporware because it's a cloud and it's virtualized throughout.
Okay. What an amazing panel, great discussion. Hopefully you learned as much as I did. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, INSA, WTOP.